to the rough territory of my last review of Fun Movie. If you've never seen Plan 9 from outer space, you've obviously been living in a hole, probably lined with fluff plucked from your own chest. This is a cult film mainstay of the so bad it's good variety, and it's the most famous, if not the most infamous, of many terrible classics that have earned Ed Wood's status as a cult director. It almost stars Bela Lugosi. Going in knowing that this is a piece of crap, I kind of feel like I'm taking a cheap shot at an easy target, but as a classic cult movie we all would have been aware of, I really can't ignore it. Plan 9 is about alien blah blah raising the dead as an army blah 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 to stop us from blah blah floors from the moon blah blah, and I could shit you with anything here, because even if you've seen this movie, you don't know what it's about. It doesn't make any goddamn sense. And all people do is make fun of all the errors anyway. And there's a lot of them. I'm actually not going to take the time to harp on every single discontinuity error, visible boom mic, floppy gravestone, violation of basic physics, repeated clips, or scenes flashing day, night, fast enough to give it epileptic seizures. I counted 50 errors in a 78-minute flick. We'd be here all week. And to be fair, a film has to be cropped differently for theatrical release than for video, so a lot of the so-called errors would have been intentionally left off screen. Yes, kids, this means I'm going to address Plan 9 as a story. There are those who have claimed that Wood's problems were merely budgetary, that given sufficient funds he would have made a great movie, or an okay movie. We're going to find out together. Not 30 seconds in, we know we're in for something special. Criswell's opening dramatic cue card reading redundantly informs the viewer that
we are all interested in the future, for that is where you and I are going to spend the rest of our lives. And remember, my friend, future events such as these will affect you in the future.
After some confusing changes of tense, he inexplicably calls for the guilty to be punished. You mean like watching Necromania? The rest of the opening narration continues to use overblown monologue that makes less sense than your average opium dream. So it's a perfect introduction to the film. Ed Wood directing Dudley Manlove. And I thought porno happened in Ed's later years. Dick Cheney did costumes? My God, did Nixon know about this? What, no starring role for our auteur? I guess science fiction gets pretty technical in the production details, and he didn't want to get spread too thin. Cut to meaningless backstory existing only to explain why this footage of Bela being wonderful is included at all. You'll get to know this cemetery very well. We called it the Daytime Cemetery, and you'll soon see why. In a testament to Bela's underrated acting ability, he manages to be genuinely moving, despite the rather, how shall I say, tumescent narration.
When death, the proud brother, comes suddenly without warning. Just at sundown, a small group gathered in silent prayer around the newly opened grave of the beloved wife of an elderly man. Sundown of the day.
This writing is the equivalent of jacking off into a mirror. I mean, he's so obviously proud of it. This movie is also famous for having filmed most of Bela's scenes for another movie, and then they recycled it into Plan 9. But while they were filming additional Plan 9 stuff, Bela kind of died. And so Ed Wood got his wife's chiropractor to wear Bela's cape so they could finish the movie. And no, I am not making this up. So anyway, watching the movie can be really hard to tell who's who. So I've made you a chart. If you can see his face, Bela. No face, chiropractor. Chiropractor's also 6 inches taller. So I know it's tricky. If you need to review later, let me know. Meanwhile, Jeff Trent, an actually quite believable pilot despite apparent employment at an airline so cheap it can't afford controls and the steering wheel thingies are blocks of wood, sees a flying saucer.
American Flight 812 requested.
Seems the non-drunken marionette theaters are all hooked up. Enter the comic Gravediggers, very Shakespearean.
Don't like hearing noises, especially when ain't supposed to be any.
Yeah, sort of spooky-like.
So you're digging a grave in an empty field for God knows what purpose, and you're spooked? Then I suggest you don't look over into the cemetery at her. This is Vampira, so goth she creates night from day. Incidentally, she was the world's first ever TV horror movie host, and she was quite the celebrity at the time. Wood's original screenplay gave her character lines, but she would only be in the movie if her character didn't talk. Have you heard the dialogue so far? I can see why. Anyway, she offs the gravediggers because, well, like, don't really say why or how. Bela's old man character dies of sadness, and his longtime employer, the Clown Car Factory, donates the tomb. The cops rush off to investigate the deaths of the gravediggers, along the way changing model of car, paint job, and time of day to fool any criminals. They finally pull up in front of the magically appearing graveyard we will call the Night Cemetery. By no means assume that these names have anything to do with the scenes in which they appear, especially when they appear together. Just play along and pretend you understand, like Crazy Uncle Fred Thanksgiving. And speaking of family occasions, this might be a good time to start getting liquored up to save yourself some pain. Massive Police Inspector Tor Johnson wanders off through the smoke of burning SAG membership cards, through the same set of tombstones multiple times, looking for clues. The uniforms have their own theory.
Oh, it looks like a bobcat tore into them.
With this shovel. I thought Bobcat shovel was more mechanical. Anyway, while they're working on that mystery, the flying saucer lands near to the cemetery. Or far from the cemetery. Okay, the saucer lands in some relationship to the cemetery. We are introduced to Jeff's vivacious wife and their lovely exterior set as they watch the commotion in the cemetery coincidentally across the street.
That's the fifth siren in the last hour.
Sure do take their lives in their hands, what with the weather and all.
What happened, Jeff? Tell me.
I saw a flying saucer.
It was taped onto the end of a wobbly bit of string. Looks kind of like a spaceship if you squinted.
Saucer? You mean the kind from up there?
Yeah, its counterpart.
Yeah, its counterpart, the underground flying object. Mines potatoes for fuel, terrorizes burrow owls, dislikes being mistaken for a pie plate.
It was shaped like a huge cigar.
It goddamn well was not. We all saw it. Oh, this I gotta lay at Ed's feet. I mean, did he not read his darling script? This is just lazy. I mean, how hard is it to take a piece of string and a piece of aluminum foil and make a cigar shape out of it? Honestly, I've seen stoners without access to a headshot use a piece of foil with more ingenuity and effectiveness. I don't know, maybe stone is the way you ought to watch this movie so you don't notice these things. Lest she disbelieve his tale, the spaceship buzzes the house and they fall down at different times. Then it buzzes the cops in the cemetery, who also fell down at different times and in different directions. It's like we're on the bridge of the Enterprise. Among the fallen is one of the dead gravediggers. I have no idea why. I found myself making this face a lot watching this movie. You have to work so hard to cobble together for yourself a cohesive story. It's really brain exercise. I mean, this is the first audience participation movie. The old man rises from the dead, and here I get to see what you've learned. Ready? Good job! I am so proud of you. The old man and his smoking hot dead goth wife kill Tor, and there's a kind of sad funeral. I guess actual grieving wasn't in the budget. Anyways, in order to keep their plan a secret, the spaceships fly around all over the place playing Nanny Nanny Boo Boo. The army gets called out. And I guess Ed outsourced this scene to Korea to save money. That or the real reason we went to war in Korea was to shoot at UFOs.
Colonel Tom Edwards in charge of saucer field activities.
From a 5x5 bunker on an undisclosed soundstage.
Was to make the greatest decision of his career.
To go through with appearing in this picture. Colonel, we know you're indoors, so unless those are X-ray binoculars, you can dispense with the pretense.
Well, they must have a reason for their visits.
Visits? Well, that would indicate visitors. Well, the big gun's the usual way of welcoming visitors.
We haven't always fired at them.
No, things used to be very different. First, we invited them to tea on the veranda. We carved our initials in all the trees around the schoolyard. We even made them a valentine with construction paper and macaroni of our own hands. They ignored us. So we yanked on their ponytails and loaded up the surface-to-air missiles. Shh. Fuck 'em, I say. The spaceships go to suck on the refueling titty at the mothership.
Your space commander has returned from Earth.
Okay, I love the high-tech gear. Frankenstein's lab was more advanced.
Send him in.
Is that an oscilloscope and a slide projector? What did they use for astrogation and abacus? The aliens discuss both the necessity of keeping their mission secret and how difficult it is to communicate with Earth people. Boys. This necessitates the use of the drastic.
Plan 9 deals with the resurrection of the dead.
Now, I happen to have obtained at great trouble and considerable expense plans 1 through 8, which never made it into the final cut of the film. Let me just get this put up here for you. There we go. The aliens proceed to argue about why Earth people are so gosh darn annoying.
It's been absolutely impossible to work through these Earth creatures. Their soul is too controlled.
It's too bad it must be handled this way.
We contacted government officials. They refuse our existence.
So, contacting you by radio, printing newspapers about you, and shooting at you don't count. No wonder this romance is going nowhere. You guys don't make any goddamn sense. It's like we're from different planets or something.
They have no suspicion of your movements.
They buzzed all 3 major networks. It was a huge story with dozens of witnesses. I'm amazed these people got off their home planet. I mean, did they steal a spaceship from some more intelligent aliens who landed on their planet first? This is why you don't leave your keys in the ignition on a strange planet. But speaking of humans, Jeff has to go back to work, carrying his steering wheel case, and though Mrs. T has promised to lock herself in the house, he's still a bit worried. He kind of has reason, because 3 times she has proved herself incapable of locking a door.
We've got 33 passengers back there that have time to be preoccupied. Flying this flybird doesn't give you that opportunity.
Dude, you've been doing crosswords and trying to pick up the stewardess for the whole movie, so get off his dick. Mrs. Trent goes to bed in, say it with me, a filmy white negligee. We are therefore unsurprised to see her threatened by the old man, in both his incarnations, and chased out of the house into the cemetery. There, he and Vampira nearly incoherently menace her by wandering alone in various directions, and both day and night cemeteries back and forth over the same 20-foot set of tombstones so often that the astroturf gets all messed up. She witnesses Tor being resurrected, which is partly a laughably fake miniature set, and partly 20 beautiful seconds of honest-to-God's the most pristine cinematic imagery.
She was hysterical.
Women are funny, ain't they?
The cops find Tor's empty grave. Then the saucer lands nearby. They know it's the saucer even though they don't see it because they hear a weird sound. And they heard a weird sound when the saucer buzzed them before. And weird sounds can only mean a UFO. Then we see a Pentagon general give Colonel Edwards some Catch-22 bullshit.
I understand, Colonel, you've been on tap for many of our saucer attacks.
Yes, sir.
You realize there's a government directive stating that there is no such thing as a flying saucer.
Yes, sir.
There are flying saucers.
This is more confusing than the X-Files. The general plays Colonel Edwards a tape of a translated radio message from the aliens, which hints at their mission. Then he sends them off to investigate the events of the movie so far and to communicate with the aliens.
See what in hell it is they want.
Flowers, candy, who can tell with them? The ghouls are brought into the ship and back to the High Muckety so he can hear about what little they've accomplished, chew Eros out, and then relax by gazing upon some impressive man-flesh.
Yes, she's a fine specimen.
I gotta admit, this guy has a certain amount of cool. And is it just me, or do these 2 performances give all these scenes a real drag queen kind of vibe?
No! No! Yes. I have need.
mean, maybe it's just all the drapery, but Jesus, the throw some sequins and marabou around, so I'm not confused. Also fun, the sci-fi babble is the verbal equivalent of the cobbled together gear.
Long-distance electrode shot into the pineal pituitary glands of recent dead. Then cut the electrokinetic and turn on your ship's decomposure ray.
We applied the cortical electrodes, but we're unable to get a neural reaction from either patient.
Edwards and the police lieutenant visit the Trents to ask about their sightings. While there, the aliens send the old man to scare them and then be decomposed by ray gun so that the humans will be impressed and listen to the aliens' message. Can't you just send a nice bottle of wine and ask for a date? They all go back to the cemetery to investigate some more, leaving Paula whinging in the car with a cop guard. Eros decides that since the three men are about to discover the ship anyway, he's going to let them board and then kill them to prevent them telling people. The humans go raid the spaceship, like you do. Guns are ready. Oh, there are the airplane's controls. They just got delivered to the wrong set. I wonder where the 8-track player and the ham radio are supposed to go. Oh well, at least they get to listen to that newfangled hi-fi on their off time. The aliens finally reveal their secret mission, to prevent dumb and so far irresponsible humans from inventing a weapon so powerful that it destroys not atoms but photons, thus destroying the entire universe. And yes, this is the most well thought out plot point of the whole movie. After showing that Tor has kidnapped Paula, the aliens helpfully explain all about this solar of the night, which we had not heard of before but know all about now. Eros totally goes off the deep end when Jack insults him after he's been so helpful and all.
I? A fiend? Even though you've seen us, heard our messages, you still refuse to accept us because of death. Because all you of Earth are idiots. You see? You see? You're stupid minds. Stupid! Stupid!
I honestly love how that actor goes all out for that speech. Anyway, the cops rescue Paula by hitting Tor with a big stick, and then they knock on the door of the UFO and set off all that sexual tension like dynamite.
Open up!
The inevitable 1950s repressed homosexual manly man fight breaks out. The spaceship catches on fire and the humans all escape. Tana is unable to wake the unconscious Eros. Apparently a fire extinguisher was too complicated to have on board. The zombies become skeletons, the alien ship burns and blows up. We are free of their menace. Tilt, Plan 10. Eccentric and individualistic, Edward D. Wood was a man born to film. Lesser men, if forced to make movies under the conditions Wood faced, such as lack of budget, coherent writing.
You forgot ugly, lazy, and disrespectful. Shut up!
Would have thrown their hands up in defeat. Or perhaps if they couldn't make a good movie, they wouldn't have made one at all. I think Plan 9 highlights the difference between a good movie and a good experience watching a movie. What's good and what you enjoy aren't always the same thing, and that's fine. I do think it's important that you know which one you're looking at. It's the cinematic equivalent of eating SpaghettiOs out of the can. I do love them, but I'm not going to pretend it's quality cuisine, and I certainly shouldn't live on it. Admittedly, Plan 9 would be both less funny and less sad if Ed Wood didn't clearly see himself as an auteur with a vision. As a director of a Rocky Horror cast, I can appreciate how challenging it can be to see one's vision, however imperfect, however eccentric, carried out well. And I never tried anything on this scale. If his vision is higher than mine, can I really stand by and laugh when he falls more spectacularly? Well, yeah, I can. But I can't help but admire him, in much the same way as I do, and for many of the same reasons. And I can't deny that the movie does have its flecks of true gold. In the finale, the aliens offer some surprisingly deep social and philosophical commentary. They too have God. They too love their country. And it's hard not to read this as a plea from Wood himself, perhaps feeling as alien as a transvestite in the 1950s, as if he'd come from another planet. Ed Wood may have been one of the most devoted and least skilled filmmakers of all time, and the two add up to a level of absurdity that is rarely matched intentionally. Our craving for crap has therefore actually given him a part of his dream. Fame, if not fortune. Notoriety, if not respect. And the fact that he didn't live to see this backhanded adulation of his films is only a part of the tragic and oddly inspirational myth that his life has become. All said and done, Ed Wood is the mad scientist of cinema. He has grand visions of creating a famous masterpiece, and they all turn out to be monsters.
the name of God. Now I know what it feels like to be God.
Proud brother of many beloved crap movies, Plan 9 forever stalks the movie zombie land of the internet. Even in death, Ed can't make a buck. Thanks for hanging out with me in the back row. On the platter for next time, we have more zombies with Night of the Living Dead. I'm Diana Genta. See you at midnight.
White on white, translucent black capes, back on the rack. Bela Lugos is dead.